Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of Tater Talk, the podcast about Apopka. Today we will be interviewing Dr. Robert Williams, the first PhD graduate from Apopka, in honor of our Black History Month series. My name is Joshua McMillan, your host. Dr. Williams, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great this morning, Joshua. It's a beautiful day. I'm just happy to be alive. I'm happy to be at this historical museum with one of my dear friends.
Well, thank you for being here with us. So I have about 15 questions lined up for our audience to get to know you better. And first, could you tell us when and where you were born, and when did your family come to Apopka?
I was born August the 13th, 1941 in Clarkona, Florida. And we lived there until about age 8. And then we moved to the city of Apopka, where I have remained off and on for 84 years. I don't exactly know when my parents came to Apopka, but my father originally was from Ocala and my mother from Lumpkin, Georgia.
Okay, so Clarkona was a very rural place back then, I presume. Clarkona was a very rural town back then, not like today.
Clarkona was really nothing but a four-way stop. We had no stores, no traffic lights, nothing, but people lived in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has become just an unbelievable place if you were there in 1941, and you can see it today.
Right. So what was your family dynamic and experiences like growing up in both Clarkona and Apopka?
Oh, I had a beautiful family because we were a family of love. My father was a citrus worker. He did not pick fruit, he grew fruit. And my mother was a nursery worker, a fernery worker. She loved plants, and she worked for McGuire Nursery, and she just knew how to set plants from just one stem. And so both my mother and father worked all of their lives to take care of me and my brother, as we were the only two siblings.
And what role did music play in your childhood and community, and where did you encounter it the most?
I experienced music both in the church and in the school. I often tell people, because my mother said, I was born in the church, because she carried me all while she was expecting until I was born, and then we continued going, because all of my family were members of New Hope Baptist Church. And so I grew up hearing the choirs sing and hearing the deacons do the old-fashioned hymns that they line and raise according to meter. And if I may just add a perk, that gave me the inspiration when I worked on my doctorate to study and notate that type of music so it could be preserved for high school choir directors, college choir directors, and professional choir directors to be able to teach singing metered hymns in the old-fashioned way. And then at school, we had music groups and not exceptional professional training, but enough training to establish a music program. And so I became interested in music at an early age.
Wow, that's a very important work to be done. So, what schools did you attend, and when did you decide or realize that you were going to pursue this field?
I attended, I think it was called Apopka Colored School at first, and then when we moved here, Clarkona Colored School, and then when we moved here to, I don't know whether it was Apopka Colored School or whether it was already Phyllis Wheatley Elementary School. So I am a graduate of Phyllis Wheatley Senior High School in 1959. And then I went on to Bethune-Cookman College in 1959 to earn a degree in music, because by then I had decided that I wanted to be a music teacher. And I knew I wanted to go to a private school, and especially a religious private school, to continue the background and the interest that I had started being a person of the church. And so I graduated from Bethune-Cookman in 1963 with a bachelor's degree in music. And then after teaching in Orlando, I decided to go to the University of South Florida and pursue a master's degree in piano pedagogy, which is the teaching of piano. Then after teaching 4 more years in West Palm Beach, I decided to go to Florida State University and earn a doctorate in music education.
Okay. So going back to the history of African American spirituals and musical genres here in Central Florida, could you speak more on that history and how it relates to Apopka specifically?
The music here in Apopka, and especially in the churches, was so great in the 40s, 50s, and 60s until I just get chills every time I think back on it. In some of the churches, we didn't have musicians, so everything was a cappella. And in all of the churches, the Baptist churches, they were called deacons, and in the Methodist churches, they were called stewards. But those were the people who would read out the words to the song that the audience or congregation was going to sing. And then they would establish a tune for the song, because there were several different tunes that each song had to be sung in. And once they established that tune, then the entire congregation would join in and sing. Nobody was directing and nobody was trained in parts, but it just blended together just perfectly. And it was so inspirational. And then when we did get musicians, we began to sing Negro spirituals, which are just arrangements of songs that have an African history, and also gospels. And by that time, it was just called traditional gospel because it wasn't contemporary or flamboyant like the new gospel singers now. But all of the churches started developing choirs. It started with senior choirs because those were the older people. And then the churches decided to have junior choirs so they would have the young folk to build from in later years. And then they began to organize other choirs, male choruses and young adult choirs. And so by the 50s and the 60s, all of the churches had 3 and 4 large choirs, and these choirs could sing like the angels in heaven. And we just enjoyed going from church to church, singing and rejoicing and having a good time.
Wow. What a rich musical heritage we have here in Central Florida. And I'm sure that those are some of your best memories of Apopka. Being a native Black Floridian, do you think more should be done at the state level to acknowledge the contributions of African Americans in Florida history into our education and general conscience?
Joshua, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I do think that the contributions of African Americans in history, in politics, in education, etc., should be acknowledged. I cannot comfortably say what level the start should be, whether it should be on local levels, regional levels, state levels, or whatever. But I do think that there is so much that has gone unspoken or unrecognized, or in a sense undiscovered, that could almost make a new nation, and that the young folk of today are being deprived of these accomplishments that may inspire them in that direction if they were aware of many of these achievements.
Okay, that's a great answer. How did it feel to become the first African American PhD graduate from Apopka? And what advice would you give to aspiring doctorates in your community today?
Thank you, Joshua. I love that question. And I have to respond to it through history. As I sit here today, I can truthfully say I had no idea that I would be the first Black PhD from Apopka. But as I look back on it, I am immensely proud to be, and I realize what a heritage it is, and I realize what a model and what an example it is for people coming behind me. All right. I just went to Bethune-Cookman because I wanted to go to that school because of Mary McLeod Bethune. And so I earned a bachelor's degree. Came back to Orange County and taught school for 4 years. Was satisfied. But all of a sudden, I decided I think I'll go for a master's because few teachers had masters and they were distinguished. So I said, I want to have a master's. So I went to the University of South Florida and got a master's degree. And I was honored and recognized everywhere I went because I was one of few blacks, not the only black, that had a master's degree. And so then I taught again. And then, because of some of the problems in the public schools, I decided I wanted to go further. And so then I went to Boston University to earn a doctorate, because it was my opinion that if you went to school in the East, you were going to get a better education. Consequently, Boston was too cold for me during the summertime. So I had to leave Boston and come back to Florida State University. And to my great surprise, the music program at Florida State University was far better than the music program at the schools in Boston. So I got a doctorate. And then I recognized that I am the only black person in Apopka who has a doctorate. And this was in 1973, when there were few people totally who were earning doctorates. And so it was not a planned thing. It was just a kind of accumulation thing.
Right.
But I would say to students today, go for the top. And I would say, once you start your education, go all the way before you finish, because it's easier if you continue your education step by step rather than stopping and then starting back. But I would say, earn the top degree in whatever field you are in, and you would be inwardly satisfied.
Okay. Now, your brother, Alonzo Williams Jr., became the first Black City Commissioner of Apopka in 1970. How did he achieve this, and how does it add to your family's legacy coupled with your accomplishments?
Joshua, I am so glad you asked that question, because I love my brother so much. We were so close. We were just like Siamese twins, all the way until his untimely death. And whereas my family, and especially my brother, and all of the black citizens of Apopka have just honored me and rejoiced at the fact that I had a doctorate degree, I rejoice and shout and praise God for the fact that my brother became a city councilman way back in 1970, when blacks were not popular in politics. And I looked up to him from that day until the day that he passed for that particular honor. Now, his being the first black city commissioner here in Apopka is really due to the late Mr. Faithfully Dowdell, who was an activist here in Apopka. And he wanted an intelligent black man to be on the city council. And he selected my brother, who was kind of a quiet person, but a very intelligent person. And they asked him to consider running. And so he did. And we thought it was just going to be just an exercise in futility. We
Right.
had no idea that he would win. And so it's one of the highest honors in our family. And so the fact that he was the first black city commissioner and I was the first black, oh, I am the first black
Yes.
PhD, just gave our family two great honors all the way until mother and father and my brother
Wow.
passed away.
Wow. I just wanted to say rest in peace to your brother and thank y'all for everything that y'all have done for your community.
Thank you so much.
Now, was there any difficulties, backlash, or double standards that either of you faced for being black men in upper level political and academic positions during that time?
Again, I am proud to say that with all of the racism, discrimination, etc., going on in the 60s and 70s, I was never a part of any. And that's very unusual because everything was just regular to me. Every time I applied for a job, it went through just like drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
And everywhere I moved was the same. Everything I did had no effect on me in a discrimination way or anything like that. Now, of course, being the citizen in Apopka of the black community, there were general things that I had to live by, that we all lived by, and that was marginalized housing. We can only live south of the railroad tracks, and there were different water fountains that we could not drink from. And of course, we could not go to Apopka High School. And at that particular time, it did not even concern me because I was going to Phyllis Wheatley High School, and we thought it was the greatest school in the world. So we were happy. But the basic things, I would say, I don't have the right word, were things that we lived with, just like riding the city bus. We had to go to the back, and we thought that was just a natural practice. But it did not hinder me from doing anything that I have achieved today.
Okay, so it did not discourage you.
It did not disturb me, thankfully.
Right. What does Black History Month mean to you personally, and what does it mean to give back to community?
Black History Month is almost like going on the outskirts of heaven. And I am a Christian, and so that's why I continue to refer to the church. Mm-hmm. Because I just love to remember, to recognize, and to honor the achievements of Black Americans, first of long ago, and secondly, of those who are achieving now, who will 100 years from now be considered past African American achievers. So there is so much achievement in education, in cultural arts and theater, in sports, in medicine, until one would just, it's really a forever study.
Yeah.
But we try to wrap it all up in the month of February. So you can't help but get excited when you try to delve into some of the many achievements that African Americans have made to this great civilization over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So I just get excited, and I certainly wish I had the power or the strategy or the knowledge to pass on to whomever could make the decision to expand Black History Month and the study of the achievements of Black Americans.
Right. And that's part of the reason that we're doing this today, to try to spur more public awareness and knowledge of our prominent local Black figures. So it's great that you came here today with us. And
Joshua, just to piggyback on what you just said, I think that is happening. I have been celebrating, I guess, Black History Month. It started as Black History Week by
Right.
Carter G. Woodson, the founder of Black History. And then it expanded to Black History Month. So I have been celebrating Black history, I guess, almost forever, because
Right.
I'm a free individual, and I can speak the achievements and sing the achievements, etc., etc. But I do believe that today, February 2026, there are more celebrations of Black History Month than I personally have ever seen.
Okay, that's great to see. So I know that we have spoken about music a lot, but are there any other favorite aspects of your culture that you would like to share, as far as food or your favorite dish?
My favorite what?
Favorite dish from your culture? Or one that you were raised on?
My favorite dish
Mm-hmm.
is food, you think?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Josh. Oh, my gracious. In addition to music, which is certainly my top contribution and my love, the art of literature and dance are also high on the docket. But the practices of the Black family are so great and so extensive until there are so many avenues that one could take. And so the church in itself is certainly one. Going to church is definitely a part of Black history, because all of the great African Americans usually attended church and were part of the worship in Black churches. So that's a study within itself. And then we'll come to food, how we love to eat. And in our day, back in the 50s and the 60s, there were certain foods that were called Black foods or soul food, which are universal foods now because everything is becoming universal. But chicken and fried chicken is one of the favorites of the black family. And Sunday dinner, oh my God, is just a godsend in the black family, because most families went to church. You either went to the Baptist church or the Methodist church or the Holiness church or whatever. Just very few people back then did not attend church. And so after church, you came home and you all ate dinner together. Sunday dinner, it was called. And your mother or your grandmother always fixed a special meal on Sunday. Mm-hmm. It was the fried chicken or baked chicken or a ham or roast and macaroni and cheese, collard greens, candied yams, perlo rice, cornbread, chocolate cake, apple. You just looked forward to Sunday dinner because you knew you were going to have a glorious feast. And so, again, referring to my dear brother, Sunday dinner was still something that the two of us tried to continue up until his death.
Okay. That actually leads right into my next question, which was, what family traditions have you passed on and try to keep alive for the younger generations?
Yes. Sunday dinner is definitely one. And eating together just in general, because it helps to hold the family together and brings the family closer. And then traveling to visit family is another. At one time, we had family in several places in Florida and in the south part of the United States, Georgia and Alabama. And we always visited them. And we always visited them in large groups. We traveled together in the van or the car to visit the other family members. And then we always had family members to come in to us. And we tried especially to get our children to get that feeling when we were traveling, that we're going to Aunt Sister's house or Aunt Mary's house or Uncle Perry's house, you know. And so the children, you know, always went. They didn't always get the warmth and the feel that we had for going, but we tried to pass it on so after we were gone, that they could continue it with the cousins and aunts and uncles, their age range, because all of them by that time would be in the same age category.
Okay. And now for our last question. What would you like to see in Apopka's future, or do you have any closing remarks?
What would I like to see in Apopka? What?
In Apopka's future.
Oh, Apopka's future. I have to again refer to my brother and the late Mayor John Land, because when my brother became a city commissioner, there were not some things that are present today. And my brother and John Land were partners. They worked together. They believed together. They helped to change Apopka, especially over the 24 years that my brother served on the council. So I cannot name all of the changes that were made during that time, but because it passed just like days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's just almost natural. So many of the accomplishments that they initiated and made happen in the city of Apopka just gradual, became whatever. And so I would say that as someone who's been in and around Apopka since about 1941, first, I am thankful for the progress that has been made in Apopka, especially during my lifetime. I'd like to see probably more community activism or community togetherness. And because I am a musician and I'm a humanist, I would like to see a great performing arts center and performing arts training groups, music groups, dance groups, theater groups, and that Apopka would be a cultural center based on our history and practices.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. So thank you for coming in today. It's been a pleasure hearing from you and learning some of your life story. I'm sure it's been a pleasure for our audience as well. And please stay tuned for our next episode next weekend, and have a good day. See y'all later.